Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Health Corner. Today we're talking about mental stress. We're going to hear from someone who has been through it. We have invited an author of a book, Hush to Roar, as well as a project officer and a financial analyst. No other person than Toyin Okunoga. Toyin, welcome to Health Corner.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Doctor.
I know you're very loaded. I know you have a lot to tell us. In this little space of time we have, do you mind starting with your experience of going through or having gone through mental stress?
So my journey actually started from my childhood. So our mental stress, it comes upon us before we even know it. And most of the time we don't even know that it's mental illness because it's physical. It's not physical. So, I call it the invisible illness. So mine started from when I was a child, taken away from my foster parents at the age of 8 without notice. Or should I say little, and then it went on. I had further traumatic events when I moved from UK to Nigeria, where I was introduced to my dad at the age of 9, my real dad. But then I had a lot, and during those times I had no idea that I had mental stress. Of course, as a child you wouldn't know, but I was exhibiting all the signs, and those signs included tinnitus, so I had constant earache at night, I had tummy aches. And of course, nobody knew. I mean, back in those days, I would say those days, that's around 70s and 80s, they would just think probably you're just, being sluggish, and I was very slow, but I was having headaches. And then, of course, the big bang for me was when I got sexually abused at the age of 12, and that was seriously traumatizing. I went to as far as almost taking my own life, which I'm glad I didn't go that far, but all those signs were things like wanting to be alone. I stopped doing the things I really loved, and that for me is one key element there, because I loved to draw, I loved to write, but I stopped, and no one could really pick up these signs. And though I would be amongst people, I would still feel so lonely. And also in school, I read, people called me bookworm, but my performance was poor. I was underperforming and no one really knew. I got into fights. People couldn't believe that I was fighting. And it goes on, but it doesn't even stop as a child, because it then carries on with you. And what it means is that you will not navigate through life in the way that other people who might not have gone through traumatic events. So we all have, life promises us life. We will all go through traumatic events one way or the other. But it's the way we navigate through. So once we face that life and you've gone through traumatic events, it means other burdens that come upon you, you're not able to manage those events properly. So that was my life, but also as I was growing up as an adult, they stayed with me because I did not speak. And expression, I say, is the opposite of depression. And I was not expressing myself. I hushed. I kept everything inside of me. And that was a big thing. Shame, of course, was another kettle of fish. But that was for me.
You just said hush, because I remember your book, From Hush to Roar. Now, obviously, during the hush period, you were quite young, and you probably didn't understand what was going on, or did you have any insight at all?
Not at all. Not at all. I didn't even know that I was going through any sort of mental, I'll say, the symptoms of mental illness. Because, of course, when you go through traumatic events, I think those, what we'll term as mental illness, I would say they're your sort of like little guardians to say something's wrong somewhere, deal with it. You know, I don't believe it's an illness in itself. It's a symptom to say something you've been through, this is what is happening. So for me, obviously, it was going to happen that I would be traumatized because of my childhood experiences. So those things I didn't know that it was as a result of what I went through. I just know I was going through those. I didn't even think I was going through them. I just thought I was just being miserable, or I didn't like doing things, or people would say, why are you sluggish? Because I started to drag my feet. I was not performing well, even though I read. I had no idea until an adult, when I was very curious, because it manifests in different ways, because they say hurting people hurt others. And those that had hurt me, and I would carry that on if I didn't find a solution. So you start to get very irritable. I was very irritable. I couldn't sleep. I probably only slept, I'm only just coming to terms with my sleeping pattern. I probably would sleep for only 3 hours. And that was from the time I started getting abused, from when I got taken from my foster parents. But when I got abused, it stopped. So I didn't sleep at night. I only slept for about 3 hours. And that carried on till I was in my late 30s. So all those would affect me, obviously, going through daily lives. I would not be at my optimum. So all those affected me, but then it will also impact on my loved ones, because then you will pass on your stress to them, and it becomes generational. But then I thought, this is not right. Why am I always unhappy? Even though I'm around people, I feel lonely. And I thought, something has to happen. This is not it for me, Toyin. And then I traced my steps back. I did a lot of research, read, watched, and then I realized that it could have been as a result of all my events
in childhood.
Right. Yeah.
Being a mother of two, obviously. I mean, you have 2 teenagers, if I understand.
I do.
Yeah. Obviously, you're looking out for all those signs. I know the lockdown has had a tremendous effect on children across the board. I mean, the ones who can't express themselves.
That's correct.
We don't know what's going on with them. Is there something, have you noticed anything around the families you've been in contact? I mean,
oh, yes. I mean, it's like, if you haven't been in a place where you were ready, or you had that, what I would say, self-regulatory way of dealing with things, sort of mental resilience before the COVID hit, then you would be in a very bad place once it hit, because you would not have the hope. And everything's about hope. So with children, if the parents are stressed, then they feed off that, and they become stressed because they don't even know what's going on. When parents are losing jobs and different things are happening to them, we see that, and the children all locked in together. It's like, that steam pot just waiting to explode, and it's a pressure cooker. Everyone, if you don't manage your emotions are key in this, and your mind knowing that it's not the end, and just trying to manage your emotions, but being expressive. What is the matter? Why has she stopped doing what she's doing as a child? If they love drawing like I did, I'm picking on those signs. Like, why are you stopping what you really love? Then those are signs that they could be going into some sort of depressive symptoms or anxiety.
Yeah, that's a very good advice to parents. I mean, we know that the cardinal signs or symptoms of depression is what we call anhedonia, which is people losing interest in what they normally like.
Yeah.
And the other one is feeling low. These are the two main symptoms to look out for. But I know when you look back, there are other symptoms you were having. Was it like pain or?
Yeah, so one that stayed with me from around when I was around 14 up until my 40s actually, was a trapped nerve I had at the back of my neck running all the way to my back. And it was sort of like trapped, so it was stiff and it was hurting constantly. And then I got used to that pain. I went once or twice to the doctor, but they said they couldn't understand why I was having it. But that was a trauma that I was feeling every night when I was being abused. So I think I would tense my bodies, my immune systems would lower, which I realized. And so that pain was there until I started my healing journey. And it was actually only when I actually said my story, when I started to talk about my story once in a hotel. I went for a Her Story conference, and it was when I spoke and I said everything. I could not believe it, doctor. It was very miraculous to me, because the next morning when I'd spoken, I cried and everything, I'd gathered my composure. The next morning I woke up, that trapped nerve had disappeared. And I could not believe, I actually was touching it and crying and saying that nerve that was trapped has gone. Each time I wanted to tell someone, I'd touch it to find out if I was just fibbing or it was just something I'd made up. But it had gone. So all the energy that hadn't been discharged, that had charged up in what I would say the cortisol and the adrenaline that had charged up in my body, were stored in my body, and that energy had to be discharged. And it's the same with not as much as mine, but any energy that has brought up adrenaline and cortisol, any stress, we have to discharge it. And that was proven in my case, because I had to discharge that energy that had been in my body for so many years, and that was as a result of that pain disappearing. I'm so sure of it.
Right, and then you just went and you didn't
It went because it would normally tense up if I had things like maybe an exam or driving, but it has gone. But when I see that things, I try to manage my emotions better now, and I'm so on top of it with doing my routine of exercises, but meditation and all those things, but just managing my emotions. And I've actually I've done quite a lot of psychology courses just for mental health, but I've now enrolled for my master's in psychology and neuroscience in mental health. So it's just about how our mind works, and knowing that there is hope, and to feel that we are in control and we have it in us to pull through, as long as we don't let our thoughts run away. We have to catch those negative thoughts and analyze them, almost put them on trial to say, no, I've lost my job, okay, but that's not the end of me. Or as a child, okay, mum is not happy with me, it's not about you, and just not making it about us. But we need to help our children through that. And I still struggle sometimes, because as teenagers, you'd be like, we didn't have a manual when we had these children, right?
Yeah.
So it's just learning and educating ourselves. And I try to do that, and I release my videos on YouTube to help people with mental stress, to say, do things and don't just have everything to do, just little by little. Get up in the morning, even though you're at home, you're still working from home. Don't stay in your PJs all day. Yeah. I get up as if I'm going out, and it just puts you in that mood of moving. You've just got to move and not just stay stuck.
I think a lot of people will connect with what you're saying, especially the Black, Asian, ethnic minority groups. Now, I know there's a lot to talk about. This is the first segment. In the second segment, we're going to talk about all the things you've done to come to where you are now. Obviously, I know you have a lot. Now, one of the cardinal symptoms of depression is loss of appetite, you don't sleep very well, you don't feel well about yourself, suicidal thoughts, poor concentration, people being sad and unhappy all the time. Did you experience any of this?
Oh, the whole shebang of what you've said and more. So it's sadness that you can't really put your finger on. It's what it is because you haven't dealt with whatever's depressing you, and you've let it linger. So you shut everyone out. So I know in my case, then I would just ignore people. I would be there, and you think I'm there. I might get involved in the conversation, but I'm not really with you. My mind is so far away. And then when we finish, I just get sad, or I just want to be on my own, or just, well, my sleeping pattern, I never really slept, maybe 3 hours. And during the day, obviously, and the sadness is not a sadness, because we all have, we will always have moments here and there, but sadness of someone who's depressed or having mental stress is continuous sadness, where it lasts for months on end. And for me, it was monthly that I would not just be sad, but I noticed I was crying a lot of the time. But the crying because of shame Shame is a big thing in our society, as a BAME society. Shame, oh dear. So I would not want people to see me cry. And also people would look up to me as if I'm strong. So the shame of now admitting that you are not actually coping was a big thing for me. So I would just cry every time when people were not there, and that was a big thing. So I cried a lot, and this was going on for months, and that's how you know that this is too repetitive. You get sad, you can cry, and then you dust yourself and get up, but the depression was sadness for a long time.
Yeah, that you're right. I know there's as a BAME, that's as a Black, Asian, minority ethnic groups, we've seen a lot of people, a lot of communities are ashamed to talk about their mental health problems. And what all you've mentioned, causes of stress. And mentally, you don't see it. You see the physical one, but mentally, and this is why people live in a lot of stress and cover-ups, but you can see they are sad. So what would be your message, obviously, to people like that? Speaking out, does that help?
Oh dear, you have to roar, as my book is, Hush to Roar. And when I say roar, you start it in bite sizes by speaking to one person. If something's wrong, please don't keep it inside of you. Why? Because no matter what, that energy that is charging up in you will manifest whether you like it or not. And how it manifests is either you hurting yourself or others. So if something happens, even if it seems trivial to you, like even losing a match, like you watch your favorite team and they've lost and you get upset, just express yourself, talk about that. Oh, that is so upsetting. And the fact that you are talking about it makes that guilt, shame, everything just dissipates. It dissipates a lot of things that will build up that stress in you and just write. And what I do is write as well. I mean, just to let you know that you can speak to someone and there is no shame in it. There is absolutely no shame in coming out and sharing that you are upset, you are not feeling okay. Start with one person. If you have friends, family, please, please, please speak, because as I said, hurting people hurt others and themselves.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tony. Viewers, if you're just joining us, we're talking about mental health stress from a different perspective of someone who has been through it and successfully come out of it and even wrote a book about her experiences. Don't go away, we're going to have a short break, and when we come back for the second segment, you will listen to Toyi around how she was able to pull through on her own, wrote a book, and has been supporting, I will say, thousands of people through her YouTube channel. Don't go away, we'll see you, we'll be back soon. Welcome to the second segment of this week's Health Corner. Today we're talking about mental stress from the perspective of someone who has been through it. We have the pleasure to listen to Toyi Okunuga, who has educated us around her experiences of passing through mental health stress. Toyi, I know you've had some other treatments. It's not just... Do you mind, are you happy to tell us some of the treatments you've had in the course of...
Yes, I'm very happy to speak about my experience. And what I had, they were a lot of unexplained operations. So these were, I mean, as I mentioned before, apart from the tinnitus that I had earache continuously, I had a lot of tummy aches. And from there I had operations because I had a lot of adhesions. So that was sort of like my organs, some of my organs sticking together. And from my own research, it was as a result of me lowering my immune system as a result of the stressful situations that I went through. At the time when I had the adhesions, they had to be all separated. At the time, the doctors weren't quite sure. Because it was very unusual. The operation in itself that I had should have only lasted like 2 hours. Mine lasted for about 6 hours because it was a very difficult one.
It's really long.
It was a very long one. So I had the adhesions, and that, as I said, was as a result of the lowering my immune system over the course of so many years. But then I also had to have a hysterectomy. Because of a lot of other complications that doctors didn't know. I had, which doctor says fibroids is quite common, but I had a lot of them and also a lot of ovarian cysts. So that, again, from my research, I did read that can happen if you have had some level of sexual abuse, but that is not just in its own, because as we know, there are a lot of things that can be attributed to cysts and fibroids. But in my case, from my research, it linked and aligned quite closely to what I had been through. And that's why I could attribute what I had to my own adverse childhood experiences. So I had quite a lot of operations, and I said some of them were unexplained because the doctors were saying that they weren't quite sure why, and it was from those that I realized that these questions that doctors would ask me, like, what's wrong with you? I realized that what happened to you might be a very more informative way of asking the question.
Right. Well done for writing your book. I know it's not everyone who may be able to write a book to express themselves. What would be your advice to thousands or millions of people out there who are passing through one mental health stress or the other? I'm thinking about, are there anything like exercises or they talk about mindfulness or any self-help measures you think people should consider doing, which has helped you from your experiences?
Oh, absolutely. Because whilst I was going through what I was going through, what I didn't say was that I'd put on a lot of weight, and what comes with that, or what came with it with me, was low self-confidence, and sort of feeling unworthy, sort of feeling, with everything I went through, being dirty or having a disease to please, not loving myself, and that's not being vain, but just not having boundaries. So with all those, what helped me was to lose weight. But how I was going to do that, I had to, because I knew that was going to be one aspect to my journey. So I had to have a routine of exercise, and I started bit by bit because of my the health issues that I'd had. So it was making sure that I wouldn't eat past a certain time. So 6 o'clock was the latest I could eat, and I still maintain that today. And what I then did was I started to do body balance, and body balance is a combination of Pilates, yoga and Tai Chi. And that was such a beautiful way of meditating. But of course, now I do it at home, and it's not even, because people might it sounds like a bit of woohoo up there, but it is so important. And the reason it's important is that when you are going through stress, everything is in your mind, and you are racing in your mind, and outside is calm. So you want to be racing outside as well. So, but when you sit with yourself, a lot of things come up for you. Some of those things are very uncomfortable, but what I did was I was writing down all those thoughts that were coming up, that were negative. So, and that's what I did through, and still do, through my mindfulness of just sitting with myself, just waiting for things that will come up, but not having anything around me, so I can just be with myself and see whether there are things that still upset me, or if they're good thoughts. If they're good thoughts, just let them flow. But if they're negative thoughts, don't let them wander. Write them down, and then you can deal with them, and that will set your mind into an equilibrium where you don't have those mental stress that's really getting to your mind, where you can't stop negative thoughts of I'm not worthy. So mindfulness was is still a huge aspect. Then exercising, I do a lot of exercise in the morning. That's my routine. When I do my prayer in the morning, faith for me is amazing. You have to, in my opinion, if you don't have faith, it's like you don't have hope. And when people let you down, who do you go to? For me, it's Jesus. For you, it might be someone else. But for me, faith, then you have someone to turn to. It gives you hope. But then your exercise, then the balanced diet, because now with the COVID and everything, eating good food and balanced diet with your greens, different colors, purples, or cannot be more important now, than any other time than it is now. So eating and not eating too much, because in the morning I realize I don't need to eat that much because I'm not actually using that much energy. I'm at home, so I don't need to eat. Sometimes I'll just eat a very light meal and then wait till the afternoon. So things like that, making sure that you're intentional about how you want to be, about you. Because now that you're coming out of those trauma, the way I realized was that I now need to love myself, and that was looking after me and setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, saying no when you mean no, and not letting people walk over you.
Yeah.
And those are the steps that I would say. But then being expressive when someone does something that's not good to you, don't hold it in. Don't feel that that person will stop liking you. It's okay if not everyone likes you. Say what you need to say and sort it out. Be communicative and get it sorted. And that for me is it's gospel. Yeah, that's
fantastic. Yes. So talking about, I'm going to ask, when you write down those negative thoughts, you deal with them. How do you deal with it? Because this is for the benefit of the people listening to you. How do you deal with them? Do you go back and confront them, or what exactly?
So when I started my journey of healing, the major one for me was all those people that I'd said had hurt me in one way or the other, and I'd kept those in my subconscious, not even conscious. So I repressed and depressed those memories. So the first thing I did was to write. I wrote to those people that hurt me. I wrote to the person who had abused me, and I had an interview. I went very far because I just wanted closure. So I interviewed those people that had hurt me so badly, and that was I felt like I got my power back. So that was so important. I know a lot of people might not be able to do that, because in some instances it might be dangerous. But what I did before I gained my confidence and power, or the confidence to do that, was to write a lot of letters and throw them away. Throw. So when you get your thoughts down on paper, you look at them, analyze them, put them on trial to say, is this true about me? So for me then, I used to say I'm a mistake child, so I can never really achieve what everybody else is achieving, because so I put limitations on myself. So analyzing those thoughts and saying, that is a wrong thought, that's not true. That's not who I am. That happened to me. That does not define me. So putting those on paper is for you to see whether you are telling yourself the truth about you. So that's how I analyze them and say, no, just get up, find help, seek help. Do you need medical help? That's okay. Go and get it. So those are the things. But sometimes don't even accept those negative thoughts in your head in the first place. So I dismiss them. And that's what helps, by writing down those thoughts and seeing what is true, or is that what someone's saying about you, or is that what you believe? So everything starts in the mind. We have to guard our mind with what we put in there, because everything, a thought, starts in the mind, and how our perceptions are of who we are.
Yeah, and no, that is very good, very, very informative. Physical exercises. Do you take walks? Do you go swimming?
I stopped swimming when the COVID and everything, but I used to go swimming with my daughter, because with the children it's so important, and we go walks every weekend. We're going to start that again, because we stopped again during the COVID, but we go walks every weekend. I go with my daughter every Sunday morning, so we go around where we live, and we walk and we talk. Sometimes we jog, and we do that. It lasts for about an hour. So we do that every Sunday morning or Saturday morning, and we do that. Drink a lot of water. I drink a lot of water. The first thing I put in my mouth in the morning is water, lemon and honey. I drink that the first thing. I can't eat. I drink, because to get rid of all the toxins. So exercise first thing in the morning, but now I do it every morning, but I do it at home. So I do my squats, I do my sit-ups, I do my Russian twists. If you don't know that, you can Google that. But it's just to keep your waist in a way where, because diabetes and everything, I had high risk of diabetes. And when I realized that I was almost going to be diabetic, I thought no. So I started to do a lot of exercise. So exercising, doing a little, but of course consult your doctor. But mindfulness is key, because it's the mind that we have inner conflict with.
Yeah. Fantastic. And now you said, well, you've pulled through, and you are now like an expert, teaching and supporting everyone.
Oh, yes.
That's good. Are you getting feedbacks from people?
I'm getting a lot.
Yeah.
I've had some people who have come to me and saying they're having suicidal thoughts, actually. And I'm not trained in that area, but I've said that they can seek help from someone else. And I would just tell them my own experience, that just try every day, just take one day at a time, one day at a time, and, get up and just have your shower and, just little bits like that. So I've had loads, ever since people have been reading my book, they would come and say how, not just, they might not have gone through my experience, but what they're saying is the hope that I offer, that you can pull through the most horrendous thing in your life. So that's the feedback. But also they're realizing that people defining who they are is a big issue, especially within the BAME community.
Yeah.
People saying, labeling them to say just because they were born maybe out of wedlock, this is who they are, and limiting their beliefs that we all have. So a lot of people have said that my book has made them realize that they don't have to accept what people say they are, and things like that.
So, wow, that's very good. Tony, what are your experiences with children? I mean, I know you've been supporting people across the board. Are there some children that have come to you or through their parents? I know these days you've got people who are as young as, I know as a doctor, we've been seeing 5-year-old being anxious, not sleeping very well, especially with the lockdown. And it's one of the difficult age group because they probably don't understand what's going on, but some of them bedwet when they don't used to do this. So they don't sleep, they have nightmares, they're bedwet, they're irritable, they don't eat very well. They either lose weight or put on weight. So do you have any experience with the younger ones?
So I've not had any personal experience with the younger ones. I mean, I've had their parents probably just telling me a little bit. But when I went to Nigeria, because of the huge mental illness problems that were there, I was called to speak at 2 schools. So I went to a primary school and a secondary school to talk to them about that. And what I said was that we as parents, if we look and behave hopeful, that translates to our children. So with me at home now, even if there are things, not that I bury them, I sort them, but I don't have to show that and wear it on my face that this is what. So I give them hope when they're asking questions that why is that COVID happening? We don't know that, but this is what we're going to do to make sure that we don't, so it's just talking. So I've spoken to the parents where, some of them will say, oh, their children are just being very naughty. I'll say, let's not quickly label the child who's naughty. Let's try and dig deeper to see there might be something that's deeper that's happening to that child. So things like that is what I've had, like they're just very naughty. And I'll say, let's just delve deeper, because I know in my case, as I said, I had a fight, but no one knew that it was because of what I was going through that made me. So it's more of having the hope and making the parents, we ourselves have to have hope, look as if we are hopeful. We will be hopeful because we are still here. If we are here, we have hope. And then just watch them do things that they love and introduce things like, as I said, I walk with my daughter, and it's not always easy because teenagers and everything, they want to do their own and they are even more irritable. They want to go places where you don't want them to go. But explaining and talking to them a lot helps. So with the ones who do not know how to express themselves, it's getting on the floor and drawing with them, letting them just do things in a silly way. I love playing, I love reading. I did that all through with my children. And then baking, cooking, just getting their mind off things, cooking with children. Oh my gosh, I love it. I do it all the time. Just getting their mind off things by being creative. Not necessarily, we don't need to spend a lot of money. Just doing activities that will get their minds off things, that will make them ruminate about things that are unnecessary.
No, I think the families will be listening to what you're saying. I mean, they've been communities, a lot of them probably think the children is being naughty, and but they actually should be on the lookout for those subtle signs. That children can have mental stress just like adults. And look, no, I told you it's been a pleasure listening to you. And viewers, today you've heard a lot from someone who's been through it and written a book.
Yeah,
and
my
thought
hospital.
other things to surmount mental health stress she's been through. Told you, I really encourage others to, look at, watch the video, and probably read the book. I mean, it's very informative, and I thank you for attending Health Corner this week, and hopefully in future, if we invite you to Health Corner, please find time to come.
I certainly will, Doctor.
And to you viewers, it's been a pleasure, obviously, and we thank you for staying and patiently watching this video clip. Look after yourself, and thank you. Bye-bye.